environment. Moving ahead with this technological part, now here today we are in the era of smart homes. We are welcoming the smart homes ahead. Though it is in the introduction phase, the digital homes penetrated by the network digital media, where we have the consumer electronics which converges to create a complete digital environment in our house or household activities too. Many of you can access the music, the photos, the videos, the games. If you think of recording anything through the television, or suppose if you want to watch anything recorded on your smartphones, and you want the entire family to watch it, so you can just transfer the videos or any data to the high definition television and everybody can watch. So one can enjoy the rich high definition content from anywhere. You can even connect the others also, maybe through your PCs, handsets. So because of this technology, it gives an enrichment or convenience to our daily life or day-to-day routine activities also. I gave you this as one example. Now today, if you see, so much of convenience is given to us that today many of them, you have a player like Alexa. Okay, one can perform many tasks through this connectivity. Similarly, we have in this some of the industries, the robotics are there. Okay, introduction of robotics. Again, here the huge cost is involved as far as the robotics innovation is considered. It's still a long way to head because it involves the investment part, or a lot of cost is involved. So even there is a debate on whether the HR or the people would be replaced by these robots. It's a debatable thing. Consumer electronics is finding a huge scope. If you consider in Indian market itself, you will see many players entered after 2004 and 5. Many multinational companies, they saw a huge potential for the electronics market in India. Now here, as we move ahead, we'll see the economic factor. That was also one of the reasons, because the more the emphasis on the technology or the quality through technology, more is the pricing. When any company banks on the offering based on technological innovation, okay, usually it is perceived that the cost is higher, isn't it? If you take an example of a smartphone, the more convenient features technology wise it offers, more is the pricing. The people are ready to pay that much amount because they are somewhere convinced by the manufacturers with reference to the features or attributes which that phone is going to offer to the customer. So here, even the customer realizes the importance of technology. Only you just take a name of like many of the automobiles, they just emphasize on the technological grounds and people are ready to purchase at that price. If you say that a German make, it is from a German make, or it includes the Japanese technology, these words are enough for the customers to understand the pricing attribute. So here, as far as pricing is considered, the companies, there is no need for them to push or to convince the customer why the pricing is on the higher side for the technology driven offerings or products. Same is the case for two-wheeler market or the four-wheeler market. Now, anybody who is aware about the pricing of two-wheeler electric bikes? The electric bikes are introduced in the market. What is the pricing? Hello? I cannot hear you. See, if you go for the pricing, okay, it's beyond 1 lakh. So here, from the traditional offerings, as the marketer is offering something unique with reference to technology, okay, the prices are on the higher side. And when you go for electric bikes, that means the consumer also understands that it has involved a lot of R&D, and the company has taken much efforts for this. Similarly, the customer also understands that in future, when they go for electric bikes or electric cars, their expenditure on fuel consumption is going to get reduced or null, we can say. It's nil. And that's why they will think of purchasing these technology-driven offerings. Similarly, if you think of powerful chips or super fast fiber optic data networks, the computer memory or the set-top boxes, okay, where we have the computers, or you can say the digital interactive TV, which has become a routine affair today for many of them. But still, if you take into consideration the rural market, there is huge potential for the LCD, that is the liquid crystal display, or the plasma or digital processing technologies to penetrate in these market. Now, as far as the service industries are also considered, entertainment industry is considered. There are many apps which you can easily download on your mobile smartphones today. If we think of entertainment platforms, they are the future ahead. Many of them, they would be shifting from the day-to-day entertainment on the television to maybe Amazon Prime or some other service providers, okay, where the person will have easy access to the content which the person is looking for. Or those who don't want to be in front of that television box, maybe you can just have your smartphone while traveling. You might have just enjoy the entertainment, music or television. Now this is all because of the innovation of the technology which is helping it. Similarly, one more example I would like to quote about Amul. Okay, during the pandemic, many of the milk manufacturers had foreseen that business would come down, or the dairy industry. If you see, because there was no demand, the people, since it was the lockdown, okay, people were sitting at home, though for the milk, as it was a essential, it is a essential commodity, hence it was permitted. But dairy processing industry, okay, since there was an issue as far as the supply chain management was considered, people moving from one location to another location, I mean those people, those who were from their hometowns, they returned there. Therefore there was a problem as far as truck drivers were considered, okay, or the people who drive the vans, the other mode of transports also. So in this pandemic era, where the others were thinking of losses about their dairy industries or dairy products, Amul was one of the company which tapped the opportunities. That is always in a business, there is a huge risk. So here, Amul is one of the company which introduced 32 new products during this era, as the company saw that there would be immense potential because people would be at home and the demand for the dairy based products would be more. So they tied up. Now the problem was with respect to supply chain management, and company invested huge amount and had a tie up with IBM. Okay, maybe whenever we get time, I might show you a video also on this. A very beautiful video is there on YouTube regarding this aspect. So they had a tie-up with IBM company to tap the supply chain, because that was very crucial part. Which plants are working at the full capacity and which one are not working at the full capacity. Okay, right from there to the supply chain management with reference to the trolleys or the trucks, everything was managed by the IBM. So it was a tie-up. This small step, or you can say a big leap of tying up with the IBM company for the digital transformation, helped the company to make profits in spite of the other competitors forcing it as a recession or maybe forcing it as losses. Except Amul's ice cream, cold drink and ice cream aspect, the other, all the offerings were in demand on a full-fledged basis. Okay, so this is the, you can say, role of the technology, how it plays, how this, with the help of this technology, Amul has moved ahead into the market, and it was able to tap the market and gain the revenues more as compared to this its routine business during pandemic. And not only that, from the HR front, it gave the incentives. Now the other people, those who were working with the other industries, they also joined. Maybe the Amul had to recruit more people rather in the pandemic scenario by taking all the safety measures, and even the incentives were given to the employees. So here, we never know how this technology helps you ahead in businesses. Now here, today, if you see the digital revolution, we have the digital revolutions as far as the cinema industry is also considered. There would be a shift in future, or rather it is shifting from the traditional cinemas where people used to go and enjoy the cinema in the theaters. Now they may think of having the e-cinema through the digital platforms. As far as the securities are considered, we have the digital cameras, which again is an evolving business in India. Like that, there are many aspects also. So here, with the addition of entertainment technologies to ICT, it has opened up new avenues, we can say. With the help of the internet, there are many miracles possible. So this was about the technological environment. Anybody wants to share any example with reference to how technology has changed the marketing? Now, if you consider the two-wheeler or the four-wheeler market, always the manufacturer, when he promotes the offering, it's based upon the technological base. Technology is one of the tools in the hands of the marketer through which it penetrates the market. Any electronic good which would like to penetrate into the market, so technology is very important factor. And of course, the digital revolution itself plays a role on the basis of technology.
Excuse me, ma'am. This is Ajay Gaikada. I want to give an example of digital use of daily life. Previously, we use the cash for purchase anything. Now we are using that Paytms and GPay. So this is the advantage for as a customer, because previously we gave suppose 500 notes and sometimes the shopkeeper is deny or rejected, I don't have any change. So now today if we are purchase any small thing, any small product, so we can easily pay. For example, if we purchase a coriander, so we can easily pay 5 rupees. There is no need to there is a no interaction between the shopkeeper and the customer for in regards of give me a change.
Yeah, so it has been a boon in this pandemic situation for the customers, basically.
Yes.
So there is no physical touch or nobody needs to go out, just they can pay through e-wallets, which we can say e-wallets. Okay,
Yes,
which
yeah.
Yeah, we have today the availability of e-wallets wherein you can access your PCs or maybe your phones through GPay or some other mode, or just banking apps. You can pay the shopkeepers, or maybe if you think of booking for tours and travels, or maybe you want to order food through restaurants. So this is what the technology has played a very vital role here. Now moving ahead with the next factor is, that is the natural environment, how it affects the marketing. Okay. Now here, as far as the environmental factors are considered, again, they are not under the purview of an organization of a firm. We cannot govern the environmental conditions, but how it affects the marketing. So here, first and foremost thing, we can take an example of the seasonalities. Okay, how seasons rule the marketing. Now, if you see, it's a winter season. Okay, when you go to enter environment or the climatic conditions, how one can link the climatic conditions with the marketing? Any idea? Whether there is a correlation? Just now I gave you an example of Amul, and I told that their ice cream and cold drink facility or layout was idle, and which was transformed to manufacture the milk products, dairy products. Okay, so here, as during pandemic, people used to care a lot about their health. They didn't wanted to move ahead with the consumption of ice creams. Okay, the consumption of ice creams was very low. Today it's a season of winter, so the demand for those products which keep you warm are on rise. So here, if you consider the seasonalities and the geographical locations, they dominate the marketing environment in terms of demand. Maybe today it's so much of cold, so the demand naturally rises for the offerings like shawls, sweaters, where everybody wants to keep themselves warm. Against this, if it is summer, nobody would think of purchasing sweaters, shawls, or jackets, isn't it? Similarly, the consumption of tea, coffee, and all the hot beverages, okay, they go up as far as the seasonalities is considered. Now, this is one aspect as far as the marketing or the demand for offerings is considered. And if you might have seen, the there is no need for the marketers actually to promote such type of offerings, like maybe instant soups market, okay, which have gained tremendous potential, which have seen a tremendous potential in the Indian markets, and they are successful in penetrating. You might have observed the ads also, okay, where they emphasize that when you can prepare it home based, why you want to go to the restaurants, the instant foods, okay, the hot beverages specifically. But due to competition, okay, though marketers understand that it is the need or the requirement for the of that particular season, still, to be in the competition, some of the companies, they come up with the advertising, they spend huge amount just to remind the customers that that brand exists in the market. Okay, so here, similarly, if you see, the consumption of ice cream increases in the summer season. So our demand for certain offerings, certain products are season based. It varies from different regions. If you go from one nation to other nation, there is again the change in the weather, and it affects the demand and marketing of the offerings. So the company, when it takes into consideration the demand forecasting aspect, it has to look into this feature. That is one thing. Second thing is with reference to the deterioration of the natural environment, which is a global concern here. The if you see in the cities, because of, we say, urbanization or industrialization, has resulted in air, water, soil pollution, which has reached to the dangerous levels. Now, government has to intervene. Since it has reached the saturation point, the government has to come in between, and it has to pass certain legislation laws so that it becomes mandatory for the manufacturing industries to adhere to the norms, especially if you take into consideration the chemical or the pharmaceutical industries. Okay, where the industrial waste is a big problem, and they used to dispose it very easily, which was again a concern or hazard for the society from the health issue. The legislations passed or the rules have hit many industries very hard. Many of the companies, those who did not care, used to care about this aspect of industrial waste or the pollution aspect, today have to invest much more than they used to, and take the cognizance from the two perspectives. One is adhering to the government norms, and second thing is the social responsibility. Because again, when you have the audit, you have the social responsibility part, that is the social audit. More the company takes the cognizance, or at least shows that it takes the cognizance of the society, better would be their brand evaluation. So this is one of the factor which has contributed to the brand equity of the brand or the organization in totality. Now, shortage of raw materials today, if you see, certain raw materials, they are limited. It's not the case that today that we can just extract the raw materials, and hence there are also environmental groups which have lobbied for a ban on certain propellants. So one has to take care about these things also. The finite renewable resources, maybe with reference to forests or conservation of green environment, is a concern for many environmentalists. So here the forestry companies which are required to reforest timberlands in order to protect the soil and ensure that sufficient wood is preserved to meet the future demand or future requirements for the future generations to come, which has given rise to again the innovations as far as these aspects are considered. The companies are thinking about substitutes for the products. Non-renewable resources like oil, coal, petroleum, and metals pose a problem. That's why the firms are always engaged in the research and development and think of exploring the substitute materials. Now, if you take an example of a one finite non-renewable source like oils, okay, every now and then you see that the petrol prices they are rising, and because of the increase of the costs with reference to these increased energy costs, okay, the coal became popular again and companies searched for practical means, maybe to harness the solar, nuclear, wind, and other form of energies. Now, because of this problem of oil consumptions or fuel consumption, which has led the companies to take R&D into picture, and we see that today the companies are explored the electric bikes or electric cars. Similarly, in the previous session also we discussed about the solar panels or solar energy. So the companies are coming up with the innovative offerings, the alternate development of sources of energies where they can think of using it efficiently and convincing the customers about the substitutes to be used as an alternative source of energy. Now, even the companies are taking the cognizance as far as the pollution levels is considered. Today, if you consider just the food industry or the groceries, they are banking on the organic foods where they are showcasing the hazardous part of the chemical pollutants with reference to soil or the use of fertilizers, how it affects the soil pollution. So banking upon this, the customers are convinced to move ahead with the more rich and greener products. The packaging industry has seen a revolution with the reference to disposal. Now, the ban of on plastic has made the companies think about new options and go for recyclable packaging materials. Now, McDonald's or the companies like the Burger King, they eliminated their polystyrene cartoons and now use smaller recyclable paper wrappings and paper napkins. If you see today, the plastic bags, they are also banned and more emphasis is given to the paper bags which are recyclable. So these concerns have opened up opportunities for the green cleaners industries. Okay, so this natural environment also opens up the opportunities. It is up to the marketers how they tap these opportunities. Now, if you take into consideration the government rules and regulations, they play a very vital role in this. You might have read or come across the news regarding the Coca-Cola company. Okay, they had the plant in Kerala where the people, the local environmentalists, they lobbied in and they made a move against this company where water table distortion was a problem and the company had to take the cognizance of it and remold the strategies and move ahead with the recycling of these water plants. Even the plastic bottles, okay, today, since the plastic is banned, many of the companies think of moving ahead with the recyclable options. Even in the electronic components, the components which goes into the gadgets, even they are recyclable. Now, this is because the government has intervened and made it mandatory for the companies, since pollution was one of the important concern and preservation of ecology or the greener environment is the other important aspect which the government thought of, and the companies have to adhere to the norms led by the government. So here there are different aspects as far as the natural environment is considered. Now, apart from this, there are certain natural calamities which are not in the purview of the company. Now, for example, the floods, the earthquakes, these are the natural disasters, the hurricanes, okay, where it affects the marketing in terms of maybe the supply chain logistics, where the shops are affected, where the people are not able to reach to the destinations, maybe service providers. So here these natural disasters or calamities again play a vital role. The goods are not able to reach to the manufacturer, the supplies in case of B2B, business to business, the raw materials, okay, maybe due to one or the other natural calamity, if they are not able to reach the industries, whether it is possible for the industries to go ahead with manufacturing? No. If the supplies are short, okay, against this, if the supplies are short due to one or the other natural reason, natural environmental reason, then naturally when the demand is high and the supply is low, it is going to affect the pricing, because the company takes into consideration only the pricing attribute. For those who can purchase the offering, they will only come ahead. So here the company thinks of controlling the demand by manipulating the marketing tool, that is the price. Or for those offerings wherein a customer can go into a wait mode, that is, if the customer is ready to wait for a certain amount of time, then the orders are placed and the supply is awaited. Here, when this scenario is possible, when the goods are in much more demand, some uniqueness or differentiation is offered by the manufacturer. In that case, only this is possible. For the timing, the customer can think of having some substitute offerings. Suppose if we consider an example of the oils category, suppose a customer is very much, the customer prefers to use a particular oil, okay, and the supply is short, he may think of having the substitute offering on a temporary basis, okay. But if he is very much satisfied with that particular brand, he will come again to the shop to inquire that whether the same offering is available, what would be the availability, even though the price is on the higher side, since the offering or the product offers some benefit to the customer, and that's why the customer thinks of having the waiting frame or waiting period, and he looks ahead for the opportunities. He taps always, and then whenever the offering is available, he purchases it. But here the criteria is that, first thing, the offering should satisfy the customer so that the customer gives that number one preference to that offering. Something unique or something different is offered by the manufacturer. Unless and until this happens, this scenario is not possible. So this is about the natural environment, where environmental factors govern the marketing with reference to maybe coming up with the new offerings, that is development of new products through R&D. Second thing is with reference to pricing. As I said, that if the resources are short in supply, in that case, the manufacturer thinks of fluctuating the demand or holding the demands as the supplies are less by increasing the price. Here, that is one of the strategy as far as pricing is considered. And third important aspect this natural environment affects is the supply chain management of the organization. Reaching to the end customers is a problem again here. Maybe in case of environmental issues like floods or any other related circumstances. So in this way, the marketing function is affected by the natural environment. Now we move ahead with the economic environment part. Now, first and foremost thing, see, when the companies entered India, when the global companies entered India, it opened up huge opportunities as far as the employment generation is considered. Since government permitted the foreign direct investments, they allowed the foreign companies to set up manufacturing units in India. It gave a tremendous boost to the economy by means of employment generation. Now, when there is the employment generation, naturally it boosts the economy in terms of income generation or revenue generation, which ultimately affects the purchasing power parity of the people or of the masses with reference to that country. Developed nations, developing nations, backward nations. Okay, we use this in terms of economic scenario. Now, after 1990s, okay, slowly and steadily, the manufacturing sector geared up and new options or the avenues were opened up for the services sector. and slowly and steadily, predominantly India is an agriculture based nation and manufacturing. Okay. Now, after 1990s, the manufacturing and the service sector were boosted, which uplifted the economy of India. Now, here the per capita income started rising. Okay, now when the per capita income started rising, now if we see before this, if we go on to the income distribution part, there are the subsistence economies where a majority of pool of people they engage in simple agriculture product which we used to have where we had few opportunities for marketers. Okay, that was the pre-globalization era or liberalization era. The raw material exporting economies where the economies are rich in one or the other natural resources, but they are poor as far as other aspects are considered, and the revenue comes from exporting those resources. Now, if you take an example of the uh, Arabic countries, okay, where they are rich in oil wells, and they export the oils to other countries. This is one of the mode or means to gain the revenue generation for these countries. These countries are good markets for extractive equipments. They are good for the tools and supplies, okay, material handlings. Industrializing economies, where in an industrializing economy, manufacturing begins to account. Here we can include the Egypt, Europe, India, where the manufacturing increased and the country relies more on imports of raw material, like steel manufacturing, heavy machinery manufacturing, textile industries, paper-based industries, processing of foods industry, which creates, okay, this industrialization again creates a rich class which boosts the economy and creates a demand for the products or goods. Industrial economies wherein major exporters of manufactured goods and investment funds are considered. Now they buy manufactured goods from one nation and also export them to other type of economies, maybe in exchange for certain raw materials or semi-finished goods. That is the reversal transactions. They do happen in between the nations. Now the large and different manufacturing activities of these nations and the middle class make them rich markets for all sorts of goods. So here the countries are mostly distinguished on the basis of maybe income distribution patterns, that is the very low income or mostly low income, high income, middle income groups, like that. We think of categorizing the economies. Now, the income distribution depends upon these three-tier pattern of that country: the agriculture-based economy, the manufacturing-based economies, and the service sector. The contribution of the three is much more important. Now, here, if you consider India as a nation and several geographical areas within India, uh, each and every state, okay, represents its own levels of income distribution. Now, why we speak of this income distribution? Because it is related to the purchasing power parity of the consumers. The manufacturer would always like to penetrate into the market where they will find the huge potential demand for their offerings. So this is the connection or the nexus between the income part and the penetration of the offerings is considered. Now, if you take a simple example of the retail outlets, okay, now these retail outlets are penetrating into the rural areas also, but previously just they concentrated on the A grade cities in India, where they found that people will welcome the offering, where people have that purchasing power parity to purchase the offerings, and it helps in allocation of the distribution channel also. If we consider the interest rate, this is again a different parameter which influences the economic environment. The banks, the government decides the fluctuation of the interest rates. Now, maybe in the next session, we will discuss about how it affects the investments or the real estates, okay, or the savings part, investments part. Maybe today I will not be able to finish this point. In the next point, we will discuss about the rest points of the economic environment. Now, any doubts as far as the natural environment is considered or technological environment is considered? Hello? So in the next session, we will discuss the next part of the economic environment. Thank you.